What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So opinions are all over the place right now. A lot of people are sharing their thoughts regarding what they would love to see with Mortal Kombat 1. I, for one, I don't have too much because I didn't play MKX. For some strange reason, I just thought FIFA was going to be a better use of playing PvP, but that was a big mistake. Should have just bought MKX and played it when it came out. But that aside, I remember jumping into the MK community in MK11, and shout out to all of the folk out here that were doing work in kind of getting new players oriented into the new game in a sense, even though the game had, very huge discrepancies from MKX and a lot of mechanics that were quite weird. But overall, people would agree that Mortal Kombat 11 was probably one of the more balanced of the two, even though MKX is fun. In fact, I see it. It's fun to watch, and when I, pick it up and play a little bit, even though, I necessarily am not a big player, it's actually fun to play. So Scar and Combat, these are two pro MK players. They shared some of their opinions on some of the mechanics that they would like. I'll just quickly read through them, and then I'll talk about what mechanics I would like to see, that actually, in a sense, agrees with them, and possibly any that I disagree with, in a sense. Scar says high/mid projectiles cancel each other out. So basically, that Street Fighter mechanic where if two people hit a projectile, they can cancel out unless somebody maybe charges a projectile, which we have amplified projectiles in Mortal Kombat. So that could be a thing. Characters with weapons like Joker, Cabal can have their hurt boxes punished when whiffing weapon attacks. So I think that particular hurt box thing, it was a design decision that probably was limited to their development of the character. But I can also understand how, Cabal and Joker are just wild, man. Sometimes when they're, throwing out some some weapon string, you really are at a loss on how you can interrupt them, sometimes, especially the ones that really do punish. So I get it. Return of block breakers from MKX to get free from overwhelming pressure situations when blocking. That's really interesting. I don't know how to feel about that one because I never really used it. So, but in watching it, to me, I guess from the watching perspective, you can't really gauge that as the same as, the same perspective as playing, but I can see how there's validity in that. And then 1 to 2 frame flawless blocks. So this is Scar's ideas. Combat says, normal meter management. I agree with that. Supers with a freeze frame require resources. I don't necessarily understand what that means. A good break system, basically what he and Scar are saying. Like I said, I'm neutral on that. Throws should be mids or reactable. I disagree. I like the fact that you can punish a throw, and you can that gives you an extra option. Because Mortal Kombat's throw system is a little difficult to adapt to because there's a forward throw that you must react to with a forward throw, and then there's a back throw that you must react to with a counter back throw. So given the third option of being able to at least dodge that throw, in my opinion, really opens up the window for anybody who may want to say, you know what, I don't want to guess and get a, like we have an MK11 when you miss your throw counter. Now you're subject to getting a throw crushing blow. So, no. And then it says good reliable anti-airs, yes. Combo depth and creativity, yes. Good movement that doesn't ignore neutral, yes. Because the movements in MKX, to me anyways, were kind of solid when I kind of, saw the way the mechanics were working. And then he talks about a few more things. I want to make sure I get more context, like flawless blocks, combat, crushing blows, jailing buttons, and all those, that are just tied to MK11 overall. Now, yes, with most of what both these, gentlemen shared, I actually do agree. I think that, overall, we don't need to be seeing this level of madness in the whole conversation when it comes down to, when it comes down to the game itself. I, for one, if you were to ask me my own personal opinions, I think some of the mechanics, including the meter management, need to be the first thing that is looked at. Now, by and large, the game is already out. For the most part, the game is already done. Let me not say out. But when you go ahead and you think about it, I don't know, everything is already been done by the developers, but I'm sure there's still room for them to still continue to make, modifications that do, in a sense, accommodate some of the challenges that players may have faced. There's also the side that I must say, the game will have a different perspective and a different layout and new mechanics that may be able to accommodate these old mechanics that if they were bringing them in, there are ways to resolve them. But I do know for sure that the meter one is one that is actually very necessary to allow for easier, depth of play. Like if your meter automatically, how does he do this? Okay. So if I do that, your meter automatically builds itself back. It doesn't matter if you're taking damage or dealing damage. So your meter basically comes back by itself. But then because I think there's no breakaway like they had, it wasn't necessary to, force you to either build meter or manage a meter. So I think that system in MKX that they're asking for, in a sense, will probably not have made a lot of sense if you had to manage your meter, over the gameplay. So those are some things that I think would have kind of countered themselves. And so regarding that, I'm like, whatever. But then the projectile ones where, projectiles can cancel other projectiles, I think it needs to be, in a sense, done very well. Like it's already somewhat implemented here in the game. Like Sub-Zero, if Sub-Zero does his amplified projectile, that will go through almost anything. Now, there are some things that, I don't know if there's anything that you can actually do to actually disrupt it, unless maybe your projectile hits him first sometimes. But usually that projectile is going to go ahead and get you if it's the amplified one, and it cancels other projectiles out. So could it be that other projectiles could also maybe, in a sense, cancel each other out if they're both amplified? Then whomever, the both amplified or canceled, if one person is amplified, then that person's amplified projectile cancels you. But then you have a character like Kodo Khan. When Kodo Khan does his amplified projectile, well, that's just a movement thing more than anything else. So Kodo Khan basically eats dirt every single time when it comes to his projectiles. And then say a character like Raiden. Raiden has an extra animation when it comes to his own projectile. So it doesn't necessarily work out if the game is not fundamentally designed to be able to accommodate all of these systems. And this is the thing about Mortal Kombat that, in a sense, creating standards in a game like this is very hard because the game is very flashy. Raiden does his projectile. It's two animations he's got to get. So if Sub-Zero throws, an amplified freeze at the same time, the freeze is still in the air. And even if right before he does his second amplified thing, which is the second animation, that, freeze would have probably hit you as Raiden. Then if you're Kodo, let me see if let me change it here to Kodo, practice options. If you're Kodo, when you do this, it's also an animation shift. So at the time that Kodo Khan is spinning here, he's vulnerable. I mean, there's this joke I make about Kodo Khan that Sub-Zero always tells him whenever they do their intro. Some say you're honorable, but vulnerable. Kodo Khan is one of the most vulnerable characters in this game. He's a big body character. He's got a lot of these openings in his strings, like his back 2-2. If you want to do a back 2-2, and what was it? Did I forget this? I barely do it anymore because you're gonna just die if you do this. You want to die because in the middle of that last hit is all kinds of openings. People will chew you out, and then a lot of other stuff too that Kodo Khan does that is easily punishable for the most part. Now, granted, when they allowed for people to start opening up, the variations and doing some mixes, he then, was eventually able to gain a lot of his power. But this does not mean that the character is not vulnerable. There are some characters that will just easily beat you if they zone you out for the most part. So when you think about the mechanics that need to be changed, as much as I say things like these, we also have to take into account that the game is going to have different systems and mechanics. And one of them that I'm not really a big fan of, even though they tried to modify, is the Fatal Blow system. Now, I can understand the Fatal Blow system being very, very friendly for new players. A lot of fighting games seem to be moving to this place where they want everyone to, to be able to just kind of like gain accessibility to the game. So the Crushing Blow system kind of rewards you for having taken a beating for the most part. That's why it's kind of wonky. If it used a specific meter set, like say in Street Fighter 6, where the meter uses the crush counter or something. I can't remember the name of that big move that you do when you hit this one button. It's actually called your drive impact. This is the move in Street Fighter where basically you can pretty much counter a person's hit, except maybe it's like a super, and you can, damage them and then neutralize them for a short period of time before then you can now maybe do a combo on top of them. It's actually very, very strong. Somebody who doesn't really know how to play can pretty much use that to destroy a lot of people. Now, the way that the developers at Capcom have actually gone ahead to balance that out is you can react to it and do a counter if you have meter. So this is where the middle ground is. Regarding the fatal blow, nonetheless, how do you counter the fatal blow in this situation? So the next game, if it's going to have a fatal blow system of some kind, then I think it needs to compensate for a counter of that sort. Because, many fatal blows in this game, too, are also very different. That's another thing, too. The standards in Mortal Kombat are, quite different. Like, Kodo Khan could be here, and if he does his fatal blow, it's a waste. There's no way he's going to get you. But Frost could be all the way over here and could get you with a fatal blow. Aaron Black could be full screen and get you with a fatal blow. Cabal could be full screen and get you with a fatal blow. So the standards are not similar with each character. So this is why it's actually pretty wild to think about, how they will balance something like this, except they scrap it all together and bring a new system to, replace that. I mean, that's not even talking about Cetrion and a bunch of other full screen characters that could get you. And then you have characters like Joker. His fatal blow system is weird because it's powerful, yet in some situations it's a joke. And then you have Johnny Cage, whose fatal blow you can pretty much make ramen from the beginning of the animation till it actually touches you. So there's just so many things that the fatal blow system has complicated in my opinion. The developers tried to change the frame rates for it, the frame data from when it could be interrupted and so on and so forth. But again, with characters that have full screen fatal blows, they could not really account for that. But it's okay. One thing about video games is creativity of developers need to also shine. But then if your video game is competitive, then that's where you have to, well, it's a fighting game, so it is competitive by nature. So that's where things have to be really looked at very carefully. But anyways, these are my thoughts. I wanted to go ahead and kind of share them and, look at them in light of what others are saying in the community. And I appreciate you guys for taking the time to, listen to the video and watch the video. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Appreciate you all so much. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.